Bright Tuty. Every student matters.
Hello guys, welcome back to our lesson. So today we have chapter 10 in your book, which is a geography section. So this chapter 10 deals with the title, Our Environment, where we learn about the natural environment. Alright? So we all know environment. We have heard about the word environment. We know what is around us is what we call environment, right? We also celebrate Environment Day on 5th June every year. So let us see what do we learn in this chapter. What about the environment? What are the different components of environment? What is the difference between environment and natural environment? Alright? Okay. So first we'll begin with environment and natural environment. Okay? So environment we know is things which surrounds us. Okay? The conditions, the air, the elements, the components. So animals, plants, things which are living things, which are non-living things. So the condition, the weather, the air, all of this which surrounds us, surrounds the place where we live, surrounds the area where we live and we do our work. So all that surroundings, all of it is called the environment. Okay? Now in the environment there are two main components or two main parts, and those are biotic and abiotic components. So basically biotic means living, the living things, and abiotic means non-living things. Okay? So in our surroundings we have living things, we also have non-living things. Okay? So we have plants, animals, which are living things. We have also germs, we have also different microscopic organisms which we cannot see with our eyes, right? But they are living. And apart from that, there are also non-living things like air, water, land, etc. These are non-living things. Alright? Now apart from these two components, there is a third component in our environment, and that is man-made elements. Okay? So if you look around us, we have buildings. As we have animals, plants, air, everything, we also have buildings, we also have houses, we also have bridges, we have towers, we have roads, etc. Right? We also have cars, we have trains, we have aeroplanes. So all these are also important components of the environment. But these components, because they are made by men, they are made by human beings, they are called human environment, or they are called man-made elements, which goes on to form the human environment. Okay, the environment where the components of that environment are created by men, by human beings. They do not exist naturally. Like forests exist naturally. Air is a natural thing. Water is a natural thing. Human beings do not have to make them, right? But houses are made by human beings. Buildings are made by human beings. Roads are constructed by human beings. So all these are man-made elements which go on to form the human environment. Okay? Now all these components of the environment, the living, non-living things, they are interrelated to each other. They are dependent upon each other, and because of that they cannot be separated. From each other. Alright? So meaning, say for example, we have human beings living, and in our environment we have air, we have trees, right? Now for us to live, for us to stay alive, we need air, we need sun, we need sunlight, we need rain, we need food, we need trees for oxygen, for other things. Now so if we do not have, say for example, trees, which gives us oxygen, plants which gives us oxygen. Now if they are not there, then our lives come in danger. Okay, we cannot live, we cannot exist, human beings cannot exist. Okay, so here we are dependent on the other component, which is plants, which is trees and forest. Okay, similarly, animals also depend on water to drink water. We also depend on water. We depend on land. Land is where we build our houses, we cultivate crops on the land. So we depend on other components of the environment. We depend on the weather, we depend on temperature, we depend on our sun, we depend on air, etc. So this dependency is important. Okay, without each other being dependent, lives on earth cannot sustain. Lives on earth cannot exist. Okay, so all animals, plants, living, non-living things like air, water, etc., they're all related to each other. They're interrelated and they are dependent on each other for each other's sustenance. Okay, and hence cannot be separated. If one is separated from other components of the environment, then there will be imbalance. There will be other causes, okay, like natural calamities, death, etc. Okay, so hence these components are very important for each other in the environment. All right. Now let us look at natural environment. Now natural environment is that environment where the components are living and non-living things. Okay, so in an environment where the living and non-living components come together or exist together, then that kind of environment is called natural environment. Okay. Now the environment has 4 spheres. Okay, the environment is consisted of 4 different spheres or 4 different divisions. Okay, so the first one is called land or lithosphere, second air or atmosphere, third water or hydrosphere, and the last or the 4th is biosphere. Alright, so these are 4 important spheres or divisions of the environment. So here in the picture you can see how hydrosphere, lithosphere, atmosphere and biosphere, they're all connected to each other. Alright, they all are important components or spheres of the environment which coexist together, which functions in unity, okay, which all have to play an important role to form the environment that we live in. Okay, so these are important spheres or important components or divisions of our environment. Alright, now we'll look at each of these spheres. So we'll begin with land or lithosphere. So what is a land? Land is basically the surface of the earth. Surface of the earth which is not in water. Okay, so if the surface of the earth is dry and not submerged in water, that is land. Okay, if the land is under the water, then we cannot call that a land, right? So it has to be without water. It has to be the surface which is dry without water. Okay, so that is called land. Now land is also called lithosphere, and by that it means that it is the crust of earth. Okay, meaning it is the outer covering, the covering of the layer, the outer layer of the surface of the earth. That is called crust. So you can see this is called the crust, the outer layer of the earth. Now if you dig deeper into land, okay, through the crust of the earth's surface, then we get the interior of earth. Now in this interior we find minerals, we find rocks. Okay, so these are important findings on the surface as well as under the crust of the earth's surface. Okay, so let us now look at the interior of the earth's surface. So in this image, it clearly shows, demonstrates us, this image illustrates what the interior of the Earth's surface looks like. Okay. So the outermost surface of the Earth is called crust. If you dig deeper into the crust, then we find the mantle. Okay. Now inside the mantle we find the outer core, and inside the outer core is the inner core. Okay. Now if you look at this image, the inner core is solid, okay, but the outer core, the layer outside of the inner core, is liquid. Alright, now the inner core, the solid core, is the most deepest. Okay, it is the innermost core or innermost area of the Earth's surface. Okay, so if you keep on digging and digging and digging on the Earth's surface, the last point where you reach is the inner core, the most deepest core. Okay, this is a part of the Earth's surface. Now, the interior of the Earth's surface, what we have to understand is that the more deeper one goes, the more deeper you dig from the crust to the inner core, the more temperature rises. Okay, so the temperature rises more and more as you go deeper and deeper and deeper. So the core, the innermost core of the Earth's interior, that has the most highest temperature. Okay, that's why when there is a volcanic eruption, okay, when there is a volcanic eruption and the interior particles of the Earth's surface erupts outside, then the particles which erupt outside, they are hot. Okay, they can melt stuff which they find along the way. They can melt houses, they can kill people because of how hot these lavas are. Alright, so the temperature of the core is about 5,500 degrees Celsius. Okay, this is the temperature of the innermost core of the Earth's interior. Alright. So, this is what the lithosphere is, okay, and the interior of the Earth's surface, alright. Now, we said that on the Earth's surface we find rocks and minerals. As you dig beneath the crust of the Earth, we find rocks and minerals there as well, okay. So, rocks and minerals are of three types. Major rocks that we find are of three types. So number one is igneous rock. Number two is sedimentary rock, and number three is metamorphic rocks. Alright. So first let's look at igneous rocks. Now, igneous rocks are those rocks which are formed as a result of the cooling of the molten magma or lava, okay, lava which comes from the volcanic eruption. So when the volcano erupts, right, the hot magma or lava that flows out of it, and that magma, once it cools, that magma after cooling forms a type of rock which is called igneous rocks. Now, igneous rocks are also known as the primary rocks, the most important type of the rock. Okay. Now, rocks, what we have to understand is rocks contain minerals. Okay. So, rock contains minerals. So, from igneous rocks, we get minerals such as silica, magnesium, potassium, iron, etc. The second type of the rock, which is sedimentary rocks. Now, sedimentary rocks are formed by continuous deposition and hardening of sediments on the earth's surface or the beds of water bodies. Now, these kind of rocks are formed as a result of deposition of sediments. Now, sediments are fine soil or sand. Okay. Now, imagine that rivers and glaciers, as they move, as they flow, the water or the river, as they flow, the glaciers and the river, they carry sediments. They carry silt, they carry sand, they carry soil, etc. Now, all these sediments are deposited over time. So this deposition, of course, it takes thousands of years for such depositions to take place, and that deposition to harden. So only deposition is not required. After deposition, hardening of that sediment is also required. So after that sediment, that mud, clay, sand, etc., after it gets hardened, then that is called sedimentary rocks. Now, these sediments are deposited and hardened on Earth's surface, on the land, as well as on the beds of the river or glaciers or the oceans So, bed is under the bed of the river or the ocean. So, as a result of that, sedimentary rocks are formed. Now, many times these rocks also have marks of flowing water. So, they are marks like this. Alright, now these are called ripple marks, alright, as they are deposited by the river or the glacier. So, these watermarks of flowing rivers are impressed on it, and those are called ripple marks. So, now the minerals which are present in sedimentary rocks are the different kinds of sedimentary rocks are sandstone, limestone, etc. Now, coming to the third type of rocks. Now, these are metamorphic rocks. Metamorphic rocks are formed when igneous and sedimentary rock goes through some transformation. When igneous and sedimentary rocks, two kinds of rocks which we have already studied, if these two kinds of rocks under the influence of heat or pressure, if it changes its characteristics, if the rock gets transformed because of being exposed to heat or pressure, then that kind of rock which forms as a result of it is called metamorphic rock. So, very common example of metamorphic rocks is marble. Now, marble is marble is basically limestone, which we know is a sedimentary rock, right? Is a sedimentary rock, but under the influence of heat and pressure, it transforms into marble. Alright, so marble is a good example of metamorphic rocks. Now, let's look at minerals. Now, minerals are obtained or are found in the rocks. Now, minerals are of great value. It's a very important natural resource for us, and it's of great economic value than the rocks. The rocks are important, economically valuable, but minerals are more valuable. Now, minerals are of two types. One is called metallic and the other is called non-metallic minerals. Let's first look at the metallic minerals. Now, metallic minerals are metallic in form. If you just think about it, when you think of metallic colors, what do we think? We think of gold, silver, platinum, etc. Right? So, metallic minerals are metallic in form. So, gold, silver, etc. Now, these minerals are found in igneous and metamorphic rocks. Some of the examples of metallic minerals are iron, gold, silver, etc. Non-metallic minerals. Non-metallic minerals are those minerals which are associated with sedimentary rocks. Now, metallic minerals are associated with igneous and metamorphic rocks, but non-metallic are associated with sedimentary rocks. So, some of the examples of non-metallic minerals are clay, sulfur, coal, petroleum, salt, etc. Now, apart from minerals, rocks which are found on the Earth's surface or Earth's crust, there are landforms as well. We find landforms. Now, these landforms are basically mountains, plateaus, and plains. Okay, these are the three important or major landforms. Now, let's look at mountains. Now, mountains, as we know, what are mountains, right? They are landforms or landmass which are more or which are about 90 meters above the sea level. So, 90 meters and above, okay, if they are 90 meters in height or more than that above the sea level, then those landforms are called mountains. Now, mountains are also different types. Okay, let's look at that. Some are single mountains which are isolated. There is no other mountain next to it. Okay, so they are single isolated mountains. And example is Kilimanjaro in Africa. Okay. Now, some mountains are young and they keep growing. Alright, they are not old and they keep increasing in their height. So, the very good example of this kind of mountains is the Himalayas. They keep growing. That's why we hear that the height of Mount Everest is more than what it was maybe 10 years ago. Okay. While other mountains are old mountains. Okay, and these mountains are Aravalli mountains. Alright. So another kind of major landform is plateaus. Now, plateaus are basically land masses which are plain, hilly, or very flat. They are not mountainous. They are not 900 meters above the sea level. They are not that high. Okay, they are sometimes plain, or they are little hilly. Okay, or they are flat. Okay, so these land masses are called plateaus. Now, the largest plateau in the world is the Tibetan plateau, which is in Asia. And because of how large it is, how vast it is also called the roof of the world. Okay. Now, plateaus are generally very rich in minerals. Okay, it has a lot of minerals in the area, in this kind of landform. Because of the fact that it is rich in minerals, mining is the main occupation of people in an area where plateaus are formed. Okay. Now, in the plateaus, the temperature is low and the rainfall is also low. Okay. Because of this very reason, agriculture is not so good in these areas. Alright. Now, the next kind of major landform that we are going to see is plains. Plains are basically lowlands. They are the lowest land forms. Okay, so we learned about the mountains. We learned about plateaus. Now, plains are the lowest or the lowlands. Okay, now plains are well suited for agriculture. They are suitable. They are good for agriculture, transportation, and activities like industrial and cultural activities. Because of how plain areas have agriculture, active agricultural practices, transportation, industrial and cultural activities, these areas are highly populated. People migrate to these areas, to live in these areas. Okay, so the plain areas are very highly populated. Okay, so that was land or lithosphere.